The BMP-1 is a very difficult vehicle to play, especially when you want to stay alive as long as possible and simultaneously have an impact on the outcome of the match. Even when you play it perfectly, at one point of the match a hostile tank or plane will get you. Having a proper lineup beside your BMP-1 surely helps. I played a good number of matches and the following tips helped me to play this vehicle successfully. Welcome to my new video that is a guide on how I recommend to play the BMP-1. Before we jump into the tips, let's have a look at the advantages and disadvantages for a better understanding. In War Thunder there are several BMP-1s at the BR 7.3 for different nations, and they are actually the same, so the tips may apply for all of them. The BMP-1 is a light tank with absolutely no armor. You might bounce or eat a few shots due to the weird shape of the vehicle and the placement of the engine in the front. But overall even machine guns can take you out easily. The turret rotation is too slow to be competitive in close combat situations. I had several matches where even turning the hull in addition didn't do the trick, because the BMP-1 has no stabilization and the gun is very wobbly. It takes a while to aim at the target, if you manage it at all. The main gun of the BMP-1 is not that precise, and with the low velocity of the PG-9 heat shell you can't really shoot enemies over 800 meters. It may work occasionally, but since you don't have any gun depression you can't go hull down and would have to stay out in the open and be an easy target. The shell has some good penetration values on paper, but since it is heat you have to aim precisely and critically damage some relevant modules or take out the gunner. In addition, the penetration is dropping drastically if it hits an armor plate with more than 60 degrees of slope. Now let's talk about the advantages and see how we can use them to play this vehicle. Besides the main gun, the BMP-1 has access to the researchable 9M113 ATGM. You want to get this upgrade as fast as possible, because those missiles can be aimed with the mouse. The stock BMP-1 comes with manually controlled ATGMs and you have to use the keyboard to control the missiles. The advantage of mouse control is obvious, and also you can easily lob the missiles over obstacles. Remember that you must come to a stop or close to it to be able to shoot the missiles. The fast reload of up to 6 seconds for the main gun and 8 seconds for the ATGM is really good, especially because you can fire one after the other, constantly shooting at the enemy. The mobility is good and you can quickly get to some favorable positions. But you are not alone around this BR, and there are faster vehicles than the BMP-1. I never was lucky trying to flank or rush the capture points. The moment you encounter an enemy, the disadvantages get you killed. The BMP-1 has a good reverse speed with up to 12 km per hour, and this helps you to peek and boom. The low height of the BMP-1 is also good, but the ATGM launcher is very prominent and will give away your position often. Knowing all the advantages and disadvantages, here are my tips on how I played the BMP-1 successfully. Tip number 1. Play as support. This is rather obviously, but the BMP-1 is not so easy to play. As mentioned, flanking or rushing towards a capture point never worked for me. The enemies are just stronger than the BMP-1. Even if you are at a safe capture point, the enemies might just push and outnumber you. I did better using the following 2 steps. In the beginning of the match I used the mobility and rushed to a favorable position. This position has to be around a capture point, provide solid cover and the opportunity to relocate or back up. Most of the time this position is before a capture point. The BMP-1 is a vehicle that excels in ambushing enemies. Since the gun is too wobbly and you can't really aim from further away, you want to get closer to a capture point and stay put. Overwatch a route that is normally used by enemies and surprise them with a fast combination of your main gun and ATGM. This works best when the position enables you to shoot on the side of the enemies. If you face them frontally, maybe only scout them for your teammates and send some artillery. The second step is to wait for your teammates in heavier and better armored tanks to catch up and pass by your position. From here on out you can support them from the second or third row. Doing so the enemy is focused on your teammates and not you. Keep the distance under 800 meters and peek and boom. Staying close to the capture points enables you to replenish your missiles that are your weapon of choice. Pop some smoke to cover your way while backing up towards the capture point. If you don't know any good initial positions to rush to, or if there are none, just stay with your teammates and support them from the second row. Whatever you do, avoid being first in line and stay with teammates. Also use my tip number 2, use solid cover. The BMP-1 has absolutely no armor. You always want to seek solid cover, and I don't mean to just go hull down or stop behind a little hill. Even if the hill provides cover from the hostile tanks, after a few minutes the close air support arrives and you are the most wanted target. Search for buildings, walls or bigger rocks that also provide cover from planes. Before you attack an enemy, check if he is aiming at you. If not, peek and boom and shoot a fast combination of your main gun and ATGM. I always use the main gun first and try to disable the gun, because I don't want to waste the missiles. But keep in mind that the enemy can even destroy you with the machine guns. Better be safe than sorry and send a missile right after the heat shell. Whatever you do, always check if the enemy is aiming or looking at you and only attack when it is safe. With the wobbly gun and heat shells, you need the extra seconds to get your aim on the target. When you are behind solid cover and there is an enemy in front of you, you can also lob the missile over the obstacle. The greater the distance to the enemy, the better. I always use the binoculars to aim on the enemy. Then remember a specific characteristic of the ground or obstacle in front of me. Lob the rocket over it. And aim on that specific characteristic again to guide the rocket towards the target. Tip number 3. Relocate. Use the good mobility and change your position if necessary, especially when the enemy sends some artillery to your position. But keep in mind that you don't want to be the first in line. Move to another position where your teammates with some armor are in front of you and you can support them from the second or third row. Please also keep in mind that at this BR, distance is no longer relevant. Enemies will be able to shoot at you from everywhere on the map, and so the front line will be anywhere. Relocate your vehicle behind the friendly lines and try to attack the enemy from a different angle. When it is later in the match and most of the players have left, you can play a bit more aggressively, but still be careful. To sum it up, the BMP-1 can be fun, but in my opinion it is not that easy to play since everything can and will destroy you. It is recommended to have a full lineup while playing this vehicle. Maybe you can even use it in higher BRs as a backup vehicle. I hope I was able to give you some tips on how to play the BMP-1. Like, subscribe and leave a comment if you want to, and check out my Discord server for more information and to connect with other players. Hope to see you in game soon.